Hey everybody, and welcome to another show. We have Fernando with us this week. How are you, mates?
I'm doing pretty good. Just here trying to catch up on some history lessons on the topic for today.
And Jeremy, how are you?
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. Happy.
Yeah, well, we're both happy because this is one that Fernando is going to sort of chair this episode because we're talking about, well, I suppose you can say we are talking about witches and things like that because it's all tied in, but we're talking about Salem, and Fernando's been there. He's got the photos to prove it, and Fernando is now going to take it away.
Photoshop.
Well, I'm not sure how much of the history are you guys familiar with, but when I was out there, I mean, I gotta say one thing though. I was surprised that when we was out there, we basically had to walk all over the place because parking is horrible. You cannot just
I bet that wasn't an issue
parking
back in
is horrible.
1692, though.
Oh
Plenty of
no,
broomstick.
no,
Plenty of
no. There was a
broomstick
lot of nice
parking.
cars. There was a lot of nice cars out there, but there was. I mean, I thought New York was bad with parking, but Massachusetts, it was horrible. But it was a very beautiful place at the same time. And then we went to. Oh man, what was the name of the? Is it Old Point Cemetery, where they had all the witches that were judged and killed for. Um, they were buried all there. Between myself, one of my partners, and my son Josh, we were walking around the cemetery. We actually took pictures of all of the headstones, and on each of the headstones, they actually have, aside from the name and the year they were killed, I believe it's just the year they were killed, but they had how they killed them. Like there
Oh,
were a lot that were done by hanging. There was one in particular that was, I don't know, was it stoned or crushed in a way or
really?
something like this?
I thought
Yeah, yeah.
stoning
Right.
was way back, like in Roman times and things, like the life of Brian.
Yeah. We came across. There was a lot of, you know, uh, the victims of the Salem witch trials are actually separated from the main cemetery. Like they have, I must say probably like their own display. I guess
Mm-hmm.
I would say best. Um, but yeah, it was since we were there later on in the day. There was actually a eerie sensation,
Hmm.
even though there was a lot of people there. But it was kind of it that I mean, I'm sure you guys has been to cemeteries, but this cemetery had an eerie feel to it, almost as if you feel like something was, not that you didn't belong there, but like almost like if you was in a way. No, I guess the best way to feel is like in a way feeling like you're accused of something.
Like you're being judged now.
Yeah, that it's a weird feeling. It's a weird feeling. I mean, I've been to many cemeteries. I mean, my very first experience as a self-proclaimed at the time paranormal investigator was at a cemetery, and it was definitely a weird feel. But
It's it's a
a
funny
little
it's
bit
a funny thing though, because when you talk about cemeteries, I think all paranormal teams will go to a cemetery at some point, but for the most part, they're a very peaceful kind of place. So,
Yeah.
and that's at night time. So when you're talking about getting this eerie feeling, I'm assuming it was during the day when you were there.
Well, we went to this old point. God, I hope I'm right. It is. I believe it's called Old Point Cemetery. But no, it was later on. I believe I want to say it was 6, 7 o'clock.
So sort of twilight time.
Evening.
Yeah, yeah.
And it'd be interesting the fact that you say it's got an eerie feeling about it. It makes you wonder. So how many witches are in there, buried in there?
The off the top of my head, I cannot say, but
I'd probably say about 19, maybe.
I mean, there were a lot of headstones there for them. Yeah, yeah. They're
See what?
actually those. Once you walk in, they. It gotta be 20. I mean, and I'm just estimating to the a round number.
It's like, because the only real information I know about it, there was 19 witches of Salem that were killed, and there was a 20th casualty, which was an 81-year-old man that was accidentally killed, being pressed to death by stones during torture.
Oh, there you go.
There was a 20th,
So
some bystander.
So I actually have a picture of the tombstone indicating the name, the when he died, and by the crushing. I know it was like crushing or like something with stones along that lines.
But if you want to shoot me through some of those photos and everything, I'll include them in the podcast so people can see some of these headstones for themselves.
For sure. I actually have, if I'm not mistaken, a little clip on TikTok also. And
I'll get me the link to that and I'll share that.
It was funny because on the video it seemed like the sun was out, almost like if it was sunny, but being there it was nighttime.
Yeah.
Crazy. I don't know. I mean, since you're the professional as far as photography and a video, what can you make out of that?
Oh, was it taken with a phone or was it taken with a camera?
Cell phone.
If it's taken with a cell phone, what happens is, and you can go out almost at dark and you'll hold your camera up, it tries to brighten everything up to make everything clear. So it will appear lighter in a photo than it actually is for real. It's just a cell phone thing to try and give you, they say, to give you better photos in low light. So that's what it is. It's kind of like a entry level. When I say entry level, it's kind of the first step in their night photography modes that they have. I've got a Samsung and it has all kinds of night modes where it'll do a long exposure or it'll brighten things up. But the first part is it's starting to get light. It's starting to get dark. What will happen is your photos will get quite fuzzy. So it does this thing and tries to brighten them up so you get a more clear photo. So that's what's happening there.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
You want to have a bit of a laugh, Gary?
Yeah.
There was even 2 dogs killed in the Salem witch trials.
And this is a sad thing. I was talking with Lynn about this the other day. We were talking about the Salem witches and everything. And some of the things that they were doing that got them accused of being a witch were not witch-like at all. I mean, if a lady enjoyed sex too much, she was accused of being a witch.
Yeah.
I think 2/3 of the population would be wiped out if that's the case now.
They killed 2 dogs being believed they were linked to be the devil or linked to the devil.
Well, they do say every witch has its familiar. So
generally it's cats. Stereotypes. It's cats,
frogs, crows, things like that. But yeah, I've not heard of a dog as a familiar.
But look, in honesty, Gary and I have seen a show. Unfortunately, they moved to Salem, and it wasn't a great show, and they gave that place a bad name.
Really?
We will never mention that show. Well, we will probably mention it time and time again.
We'll mention it after this. But Fernando, you watch it, and it is just a cringe fest.
I think it's on Binge or one of those kind of platforms.
Put it this way: semi-attractive woman wearing next to nothing, going and moving to Salem to try and find these things out.
Well, you got to go a bit. Oh God, I said we were never going to mention this. Two chicks basically having pillow fights in their 90s, who say they're paranormal investigators. But
Blanchett, oh, it's moving.
Yeah. It's like they ended up meetings, and I don't want to. Maybe we shouldn't say this in case somebody actually does curses. But they did a Ouija board session. And there's the planchette, And you can't tell me that fingers moving like that is not, oh, we're not moving it. It's,
Oh no.
It's kind of like the you're picking your nose. No.
yeah.
Oh
Yeah,
my god.
I'm up to me bloody up to me knuckle, but you know.
So what they had been saying, like saying how to spot a witch in those times, and it's just saying a witch would be deformed or disfigured in some way. A witch could have a witch spot on their body, usually a mole, wart, or
A third
mole or
nipple.
wart could be blamed in being it was supposed marked by left by the devil.
Yeah, or a third nipple was another one.
These people need to drink more alcohol and just relax by the sounds of it.
Jeez.
Oh,
I
but
mean,
yeah, they were messed up times back then. I mean,
Oh,
and again, it goes back to what I've said all along, that religion is not as good a thing as what everybody thinks it is, because so much stuff happens under the name of religion. You know, a witch, to my understanding, and I've known a few over the years, they're basically hippies. You know, they use herbs and things like that, and they were like the doc. You know, they knew how to heal people using herbal medicines and things back then. I mean, obviously,
more about white witches.
Yeah, but a witch is a witch back then. It doesn't matter. Any kind of magic was seen as coming from the devil, and it wouldn't matter. Magic was magic. You know what I mean? And I mean, there's always the few. I mean, I'm not saying they're all green with bloody crooked noses and shit like that, but there'll always be a few that will play off it. You know what I mean? But the majority were just normal people, and it's sad. It is sad, but in the name of religion, you were classed as a devil in league with the devil, and you were thrown in the water, and if you drowned, you were human and you were absolved. If you floated, you were a witch, and then they held you down.
So, Fernando, while you were in Salem, did they actually say anything about who the youngest person jailed for witchcraft was?
You know what? It wasn't a tour. I was
Okay.
while we were driving all over the place. Because when we went, actually, the day we went to the Salem witch trials, we were also that same day. We were also in Connecticut and Rhode Island.
Geez, you got it
So
out.
we were, yeah. I mean, it was in the course over the summer. It was, my paranormal road trip, and we went to 5 different states, countless of, cities. But when we got there, it was already nighttime. Everybody was out and about, as far as, because I believe it was so Friday nights, everybody's out doing their thing, drinking, partying. So there wasn't like a tour, so I was just reading as we were just walking around
Oh,
the
okay.
cemetery. So I'm not sure who was the youngest,
So
but
it was a person called Dorothy, written as Dorcas on the warrant for her arrest. She received a brief hearing in which the accusers repeatedly complained of bites on their arms. She was sent to jail, becoming at age 5, being the youngest person to be jailed during the Salem witch trials.
So a 5-year-old who was biting people was accused of being a witch. That's just about every 5-year-old I know.
My daughter's a witch. Actually, she doesn't bite. She's a good girl.
I did read
That's crazy.
that more than 200 people were accused, and the Salem witch trials was from February 1692 to May 1693. So in actuality, it didn't even last that long. They were just, during this moment, they were just accusing people left and right. But I did hear a story that as soon as the judge, the person that was doing most of the judgment towards them, there was word that he was being accused of being a witch, and all of a sudden the witch trials ended. So coincidence, maybe not, but yeah, it was definitely a harsh period in Salem, Massachusetts. And I just want to throw it in there that when you guys mentioned the two dogs, I actually went to Eastern State Penitentiary, and they have. I had to buy this. It's a refrigerator magnet,
Mm.
but one of their inmates,
Oh, that's cool.
Pep the dog, he was sentenced. He was an inmate, and it was because he killed, I believe, a governor's cat.
God. That's
So
ridiculous.
yeah,
So is now obviously because we're in Australia, we don't know the sort of layout of Salem. Is it very much what we would think? It's as in they are really marketing the witch angle and everything, so there'll be lots of shops on magic, or is it just like a normal other town and they might have one or two sort of novelty shops with witch type stuff in it?
I mean, like, you walk up this alley-like street, and on each side there's stores. There's a wax museum, for the Salem witch trials. There is, obviously there's like a witch store, and then you just walk up, and there's different stores leading up to the actual place where they have all of the witches, or accused victims of the Salem witch trials. So it was a weird layout for sure, because it's like you walking through a carnival before you reach the cemetery.
Mm.
Like there's even uh what's that entrapment called, where it's like two pieces of wood, and then it's for
A
you to be,
gallows?
yeah, they even have one
No,
of
gallows are
those.
hanging, isn't it?
No, you're talking about the stocks.
Stocks, that's what I meant, not gallows. Gallows is hanging.
Yeah, that that you're basically just like this, and with the neck and the two hands. I mean,
Yeah,
I took a picture because my son got in it, because it's
Mhm.
like out there for
I've got
because
I've,
it's like out there for you to take your
I've
pictures.
I've got a photo of Lynn in stocks, and it's got this little hanging thing that says "saucy minx" underneath it.
So people use stocks for different things these days.
Yeah. Mm.
But yeah, hey, hey. But yeah, it was a weird layout. Honestly, it feels a little disrespecting. It should be a place where you should have a little bit more respect, especially for victims of such a, I'm gonna say, horrific time.
Well, it is. You got to say it. It's true. But I mean, you see, for me, I have this sort of, I don't know if you want to say bipolar image of what I think it is. As in, you've got the very commercial, witchy side, where you've got every shop's got witches in the. It's a bit like Witchcliff down south. You got witches in there. Tarot card readers, very hippie type stuff, and you can buy your Book of Shadows or your little potions and your candles and all that sort of thing. Very commercial, making money off the history of the place. Then I also think on the other side you've got the real witches that are staying in the shadows, out of the way, and I don't know why real witches would want to be there, because there'd be too much stuff going on. But I'm sure that the families are sort of still there, and they do their stuff in private. And that's kind of, I picture it like an old English, not old English town, but that kind of feel. You got the, especially autumn time, you got leaves dropping in the streets, and it's got that old worldy feel, but with a modern twist. That's how I picture it. I know it's probably 100% completely different to that.
You're not far off by the pictures I'm looking at.
Yeah. It's a bit like when I think about Roswell. I think about Roswell, every second shop selling little aliens and UFOs and things like that, and it's probably just a little country town with one or two little bits and pieces, except for when they have the, like that, I'm saying Crashdown Festival, which is from that show Roswell, but they have their UFO festival, I think, every July or something like that. I think I sort of picture Salem being the same sort of thing like that, where they're cashing in on the misfortune of those that were taken a long time ago.
Well, just flicking through, then it's like 25 memorable things to do while in Massachusetts, They got visit the Salem Witch Village, go to the monument for a quiet moment at the Trials Memorial. Then they've got to step back in time with the Pioneer Village, Salem trolley tours, walk through the burial area, the Salem Common, the art gallery in Salem, visit the location of filming for Hocus Pocus.
So that was actually shot there, was it? It was actually shot there.
Yep, and it's like stop past the Salem Witch Museum. Then you've got the Witch Dungeon Museum, House of the Seven Gables, New England Pirate Museum, the Salem Wax Museum, shop at Crowhaven Corner, which you buy tickets there for a witch walk. Yeah, so a lot of it is centered around, by the looks of it. Obviously, Fernando would know better than what I do, but
I actually remembered that we actually went. I believe it was Labor Day. It was Monday, because everything was closed. Even the Old Point Cemetery, the gate was closed, and unfortunately, we even went to the witch house. Which is where the judge actually lived, and it's actually
a big grey building.
Big gray building, because there's supposed hauntings going on. It's actually active, and we went to the church, which they turned into a museum also, but everything was closed, unfortunately. So yeah, it wasn't a Friday night, but due to it being Labor Day, everybody was out and about when we were there. So the street, because like how I mentioned, to actually get to where the to the spot where they were, well, with the headstones, you walk up like this alley, but the street is full of restaurants, bars, grills, and all of these restaurants, and then you walk up this alley like, and it's all of these stores, how Jeremy mentioned. But yeah, it was that is actually a place where you would want to go when it's open, so you could actually have the whole experience going on.
Oh yeah, you definitely have to if you're going to go, especially for somebody coming over from Australia. You takes a long while to get there. You want to experience everything you can. What you were saying there about going up this little alleyway reminds me of when I was a kid back in England. We would go into Stockton, which was our local town, and Saturday was market day in Stockton, and me and my mates, we would go for a walk through the markets, and then there was it's something that only the locals know about. This place, it's called a flea market. It's a place that only locals know, and exactly, you walk down this little side street towards the River Tees, and literally these buildings, it's like a solid wall of buildings, and they're probably 3 or 4 stories high. They're all shops on the bottom, and then there's like houses on the top. But every so often there's like a little tunnel, a walkway. You go through them, and that's so they can get access to their back doors and things like that. And you go up one of them, and you walk out into this little narrow thing, and it's the flea markets, which is where all the hippies used to go, and it's where you get your old records from the 1950s and 60s. You could get all your hippie type stuff. This was the 70s and the early 80s I'm talking about, so there was a lot of punk rock and all this sort of stuff, and it wasn't so much the drugs and stuff like that, but it was like a right little hippie flea market thing, and only locals knew about it, so they got the really good deals and things like that, you know what I mean? And when you say you go up this little alleyway, it reminds me much like that. And they're usually some of the coolest places to go, where you find some of the real treasures.
So Gary, when you go through the city and you go through London Court,
yeah,
that sort of era
vibe
of building is what I've seen. That's sitting in Massachusetts for the witch trials. Is that sort of time period?
Sort of Tudorish. That I suppose London Court's kind of a Tudorish kind of thing. Kind of
similar.
To put it in Fernando's vernacular, like Diagon Alley from Harry Potter.
Yeah,
similar kind of feel to that.
Well, I
Yeah,
suppose it was the whole New England thing there in the US, wasn't it?
Well, it is. In fact, where I come from Yorkshire, in the northeast of England. Now, York is obviously the big. We had close encounters with that. He was lurking at the hospital that my mum used to work at. That was not long before he got caught, actually. But anyway, there's a place called York. Now that goes right back to before William Wallace and all stuff. Braveheart. It goes back to those bloody days, and it's a big walled city, and there's a certain little court or an alleyway that you go through there, where you can go in the shops, and they have a little witchy shop, and they actually have a ghost shop in there, and all these other things, and it is one of the most magical places. Now this is it's the most well preserved. I don't know if it's Tudor sort of age buildings, but it's the most well preserved in its original form, like cobbled streets and stuff like that. Little shopping arcade that you can go into, and it's absolutely fantastic. In fact, hopefully, when I've edited this, there'll be a picture of it up right where we all are right now, so people can see what I'm talking about. And that's what I'm picturing. I have this magic feeling of, because I love coming from the north of England. I love this old stuff to do with witches and things like that, and I do feel a sort of connection, and I'd love to visit that place. But again, I've got so many places I want to visit when I get over to the United States. So many people to meet, and so many places to go.
We could do Salem, and then jump on the boat and go straight across to Boston.
We've got to start talking funny if you go to Boston.
It's no different, really.
Hang on.
Just do your Mark Wahlberg impression, and you're fine.
What?
Actually,
we can be fun buddies.
Salem is not that far from Boston.
It's just a ferry ride away.
So we'll have to catch a Celtics game while we're there.
Hey, there's a lot to do. I mean, I even went to the Omni Hotel, where it's also historically haunted. There's also the cemetery, probably like a block or two away from the Omni Hotel, where is it Thomas Jefferson where he's buried or something like this? My days, where I've been at and locations, they're all just blurred in together, because honestly, in this road trip over the summer, and mind you, it was probably like 3-4 days I was out, I've been to like 15 different cemeteries. I've tried to, on my way back home, I tried to visit all of the main points before getting back to New York.
Yeah.
I actually went to, there is this beautiful place, but it has a very devilish name to it. It's actually called Devil's Hop Yard State Park. And apparently there's this waterfall. I actually wrote about it. There's an article in our Paranormal World website, and I have pictures, videos, and it's a beautiful place. But apparently the devil comes out, and he is, playing his fiddle, trying to attract people over there. And but everything is all blurred together. But within like a 5 to 6 block radius, in Boston, there's the Cheers restaurant from the TV show Cheers. You guys have to hit that up also.
I'd love to go there.
I mean, I'm saying you guys, but obviously when you guys come over here, we're gonna meet up wherever you guys are. I'm gonna take a week off of work. We're all gonna.
Question, Fernando: how upset would you be if we went there
without you?
We told you.
I'm sorry.
We just send you a photo.
If we were to go to the Cheers bar and send you a photo on Messenger afterwards, how upset would you be from a scale of 1 to 10?
No, I wouldn't be upset. Not at all.
Wait. You'd just be jealous. So, going back to your point about saying with Thomas Jefferson's gravesite,
yeah,
you're just a little bit off. He's buried in Monticello in Virginia.
No, so it must have been somebody important or somebody. There is a cemetery close by. I'm telling you, like I have all of this, just all
Bouncing around in there.
mixed up.
Yeah.
Yeah. But all I could say is that you're gonna have to pay for garage parking and try and walk everywhere,
Who said we're gonna have a car?
or have some
Yeah, we'll
like
be- we'll be
designated driver.
Fernando.
Fernando, yeah.
So what you will do, you'll drop us off at the bar while you park up, and then you catch up with us later on. See, we got a sauce.
You wouldn't have been talking about the burial spot for the Boston Massacre by any chance?
There's also that, but no, there's actually a. Is it? It's. I'm gonna have to do some. Now I have this thing, because it's on the tip of my tongue.
Oh, because
And
it says sorry. It says here the 5 victims of the Boston Massacre. The Granary Burying Grounds. The most notable citizens include Samuel Adams, John Hancock, Paul Revere, and 5
Yes.
victims of the Boston Massacre. Walk to the center of the cemetery and you'll find a towering obelisk. It honors the tomb of Benjamin Franklin's mother and father.
Ah, there you
There
go.
you go. There you go. So yeah, I am off as far as the person is concerned.
There
But
you
yeah.
go. Look,
You just let it go.
John
Just let
Hank-
it go.
John Hancock isn't another word for money.
Yeah. Signature, isn't it? Give him your John Hancock.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. On that little bit of tidbit information, it's time for us to go.
Okay.
That's what happens when we bring Fernando, when we can't get a word edgeways.
Yes, we tried.
I'm sorry.
Anyway, I think it's time to say a witchy goodbye, and everybody get over to Salem if you get the chance. So until then, take it easy, people.
See you there.